What the heck is wrong with the Saints? This team is beyond frustrating to watch, especially this past weekend where you're playing in Atlanta, and I would say you outplayed the Falcons, yet you still lose 24-15. I mean, I'm not even a Saints fan. I'm a Lions fan, so this is going to be a fun week for me, hopefully. But even I'm sitting there like cringing, and I've said this before this season. Like, this team is so hard to watch. And you just wonder if there's a different coach in there, what would their record be? So here's the situation now. They're 5-6. They were in the lead for the NFC South. Now that they lose to Atlanta, they're in second. And the Falcons have a 3-0 division record. That game may have cemented you as second or third place in this division, and you're going to have to get a wild card to make the playoffs. So why are the Saints in the position they're in? What are the biggest problems with this team? I got a couple. First of all, they're one of the worst running teams in the NFL. Alvin Kamara and that run game have not gotten going, especially in the biggest games this year. And it's put a lot more pressure on Derek Carr. And the last thing Carr needs, believe me, is more pressure because the guy is not performing nor meeting the expectation based on the salary that he's getting. Why are they the worst run team in the NFL? Well, they're averaging less than 4 yards per carry. That ranks third to last in the league. And they're having to literally use Taysom Hill in Wildcat just to move the ball on the ground. And by the way, he fumbled in this past game, which doesn't help. More on that in a second. Also, they don't score touchdowns in the red zone. Think about that Minnesota-Chicago game last night. The Bears dominated that game. And Minnesota was like, what, -4 in turnovers for a while? They ended up being -2. Whatever. He threw 4 picks. Dobbs did. How did Minnesota stay in the game? They stopped the Bears in the red zone. So instead of it being a 21-3 game, it was 9-3. And then the Vikings had the lead, and the Bears had to come back and win the game. Field goals are what keep teams in football games. Think about the Saints this year, the Packers game. If they score even one touchdown more in that game, they win. Instead, they kicked a bunch of field goals. In this past game, they kicked 5 field goals, and they missed one. What if they score a touchdown on 2 of those drives? They win the game. It's as simple as that. And 7 of Atlanta's points came on a pick 6 in the red zone. They just don't know how to score inside 20 yards. I don't know what the problem is. They just can't do it. 42.5%. That's the percentage of time they score a touchdown in the red zone. Other than that, they're kicking field goals or they're turning the ball over. You don't want to be below 50% there. In fact, you want to be, the good teams are in the low 70s, high 60s in that statistic. That's also third worst in the NFL. I got no qualms with the defense. I think the defense is fine. They've had injuries. They played well enough for you to win this last game. Tyrann Mathieu was the only one that showed up, really. He had 2 picks for the first time in 2 years, put the team on his back, but you didn't do anything with those takeaways. The first one kept points off the board and the first half. The second one was in the second half, and you immediately fumbled the ball back. By the way, in the red zone, back to the Falcons off of that turnover. So defense is fine. I got nothing to say about the defense. This is all in the offense, in my opinion. Turnovers, just mention it. They come at bad times. Talked about the pick 6 in the red zone. Can't happen. Fumble in the red zone. That changes the game. Those are point swings. Instead of you getting 3 or 7 points, in one case you gave away 7 points, and in the other you at least left 3 points on the field when Taysom Hill fumbled the football. It's a different score if that happens. So it can happen. I know Hill doesn't fumble the ball very often, but dang, man, that can't happen at that point in the game because it was hanging in the balance. You had a chance to really take the lead and maybe put the game away at that point. Instead, you're still down. Atlanta goes down, they score, and pretty much put the game away from there. Here's the glaring number and the glaring sentence that is the biggest excruciating sentence of them all. Whatever. The Saints scored 9 points in 5 red zone trips. They almost had as many red zone trips as points scored. So they kicked 3 field goals, and then as I've already mentioned, they lost the ball twice on a pick and a fumble. How? How do you only put up 9 points in 5 trips to the red zone? It's inexplicable, and it can't happen. That's what this game boiled down to. It wasn't really anything complicated. It was just that. You went on these long drives, 10 plays, 11 plays, wearing down the defense, and you just can't finish the job, man. That's like being in a fist fight or a boxing match, and you got the upper hand. You know, you're throwing uppercuts, got them on the ropes, and you just can't put them away. And instead, they do a flip off the ropes, knock you out. That's essentially what it was there. So that's what's got to change, and I've been saying it for weeks. We haven't seen anything different. Dennis Allen just says the same things in his post-game press conference every time. Penalties. Can't happen. Got to execute. Whatever. Nothing's changing about it. And I'm not sure that anything will change about it. They're just missing something, whether it be a set, whether it be the play calling, whether it be a player. And they're missing a lot of players, believe me, a lot of injury problems. That goes into this too. So, yeah, I mean, they're in a rough spot. Here's the schedule coming up. Lions, Panthers, Giants. You should win 2 of those games. Then you finish up with the Rams and the Bucs on the road, and you're home against Atlanta. How many wins are in those 6 games? 2? Maybe 3? Tell you what, you got to win those last 2 against the Bucs and the Falcons because this division's terrible. But right now, the Falcons are winning said terrible division. And the Rams, that's a big game too because right now they're like 5-6 as well, and you might be battling for a wild card spot with them. So they've had so many missed opportunities already to this point, and now they're in a really, really rough spot down the stretch of the regular season here due to injuries, due to just underperforming in general. Now they got a tough schedule. So let me know how many games you think they'll win the rest of the way, what you think the biggest problem is with the Saints in the comment section. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see what they can do against the Lions, I guess, this weekend. It's not looking too good.